Hi folks, welcome, happy Friday. I hope you've had a good week. Let's not muck about, let's get right into it with what have I been reading this week. My reading has been a mixed bag, to say the least. Regular viewers will know that I've put Anne McCaffrey on notice. I have a bunch of her books, and having read one, wasn't sure if they justified the valuable shelf real estate that they occupy. This week I finished Dragon Quest, which is the second of the original Pern trilogy, and I struggled through it, quite often regretting my time with it. Certain I could be reading a much better book or two or three in the week that it took me to get through what's not a terribly thick book. I really struggled with that. I got irrationally annoyed by all the apostrophes in the male Dragon Riders' names, but mainly I just didn't care enough about the characters, the story, or any of it really. I was confused by all the holds and the crafts and the blah-de-blah. I probably should have dropped it at 100 pages or before even, but for some reason I kept going, sort of on annoyed autopilot. It was a bit shit, frankly, and more for me for not doing the sensible thing and DNFing it. I am therefore moving on nearly all my Anne McCaffrey books, keeping the more overtly sci-fi Catani series and two or three of the standalone novels and the first Pern book, just because I did quite enjoy that one and it's the first edition paperback, so why not? The rest of them, not for me, begone. In fact, I've already sold most of them and I'm pleased that they've gone to someone who will appreciate them more than I did. Next was Lord Valentine's Castle, which thankfully couldn't have been more different. Published in 1980, this is a science fantasy, one of those in-betweeny books. On the face of it, Lord Valentine's Castle is an epic fantasy. It's a quest, a tale of one man's destiny and the odyssey that he undertakes to seek it out. But it also has many a sci-fi trimming. There's travel between stars is a thing. There's a starport on Madripoor, the planet where the action takes place, but we don't go anywhere near it or any spaceships. There are energy throwers, a blaster of some kind. There are anti-gravity devices which levitate vehicles. And there are synthetic animals, or their descendants at least. And there are several alien species who at various times have colonised Madripoor along with the humans. So Madripoor is enormous, significantly larger than Earth, with an agreeable climate and lower density than Earth, with slightly lower gravity as a result. Humans arrived on Madripoor many thousands of years ago, 20,000 years ago or something, long in the past, battling with the indigenous shape-shifting metamorphs for the run of the place. In the time of the book, Madripoor is peaceful. It's run as a sort of benevolent constitutional monarchy of sorts, with power shared between the coronal, the pontifex, who is in charge of the bureaucracy, and then the King of Dreams and the Lady of the Isle. The coronal is the visible, tangible face of this worldwide governance model, and Lord Valentine is the current occupant of the throne in the titular castle. At the beginning of the book, we're introduced to his namesake Valentine, a drifter with no possessions, just the clothes on his back, and no memory either. He soon takes up with Shanamir, a passing herder, taking his family animals to market in the nearby city of Perdruin, and then Valentine falls in with a troupe of jugglers who need an extra human, according to the latest of a series of odd decrees from the recently installed coronal. Valentine is a kind of blank slate. He seems to have no memory of his past, but his easygoing attitude means that he makes friends as he goes, and gradually he gets glimpses of his past via dreams. And dreams are important on Madripoor. They are directed, sent, and have meanings which are interpreted, if needs be, by a dream speaker. Lord Valentine's Castle follows our Valentine as he accumulates friends, realises that he's not just a drifter and becomes aware of his true identity and seeks to return home and claim his rightful destiny. The principal joy of this book for me was in Silverberg's world building. I got a taste of this in A Time of Changes last year, and in this book it's turned up to 11. The descriptions of the wildlife, the towns and cities, the plants, the people, both human and non-human, are very vivid and beautiful. I was totally immersed while I was listening to it. Like many a planetary romance before it, Valentine's quest, his odyssey, is a perfect excuse to take us on a tour of Madripoor. At times the book feels more like a travel log. It's a beautifully written tour guide, really. Valentine and his growing group of friends and followers travel across 2 continents, enduring trials and misfortunes along the way. We suspect and then learn of Valentine's true identity early on, and it's in black and white in the blurb on the back of the book as well. And from that point on, it seems obvious where the story is headed, and we can guess where it will end. So there's no real mystery there. And do you know what? Maybe that's a downside of this plot structure. Fortunately, however, Lord Valentine's Castle is not really about the destination. It's all about the journey, and what a journey it is. Geographically, sure, it's a very long journey, but also it's a personal journey for Valentine and his agglomeration of fellow travellers. I listened to this on audiobook, and I should also mention that the narration is excellent. I really love this book. It's top-notch stuff. I also finished Mindbridge by Joe Haldeman, which was a quick read. It's under 170 pages with short chapters, and I polished that off yesterday. Mindbridge is a tale of interstellar travel via an instantaneous jump system. One drawback is that anything sent will return in a specified time, and the zone of transmission is quite small, so that a team must stack themselves vertically and keep their arms tucked in to avoid losing limbs. The protagonists are Jacques Lefavre and Carol Wachol. Both are so-called tamers, employees of the corporation tasked with exploiting this tech to terraform planets, ready for future waves of human colonisation. It's a risky profession with a high mortality rate. On one trip, Jacques and Carol are in a tamer team that encounters life in the form of some aquatic creature, which facilitates telepathic communication between the two people that are touching the creature. The mind bridge of the title. There are some nice touches in the story. The first person to touch one of these creatures dies shortly afterwards, and people with suicidal tendencies are therefore recruited to be first. And on realising that anything of a destination world snaps back there if brought back to Earth, the corporation starts hiring women on the basis that they agree to conceive a certain number of children off-world, thus guaranteeing a human foothold on a far-flung world, avoiding the need for costly generation ships and their lengthy missions. The Mindbridge creatures have a self-defense mechanism which can have grisly results, and inevitably Jacques and Carol are intrigued by the possibility of telepathy-boosted sex and give it a try many times. Jacques turns out to be uniquely sensitive and ends up being the only conduit for communication with the expanded alien race encountered on their trips to other worlds. It was a good book. It's a proper sci-fi tale, and it was just what I needed to clear my palate after all those blooming dragons and their accompanying apostrophes. On audiobook, I've made a start on Century Reign, one of the few Reynolds books that I'm yet to read. And it seems that there are two threads, one set in the late 50s in Paris, but a slightly different version of Paris, the one that we know and love, and another thread set at some point in the future. I'm not sure how far yet. And no doubt that there's a link between the two, and that will become apparent as the book progresses. I'm only 3 or 4 chapters in, so more on this one when I finish it, possibly next week, but more likely the week after. What have you been reading this week? Anything you'd recommend? Do let us know in the comments. Okay, channel stuff next. Subscribers are at 2763, which is up 26 on last week. And if you're one of that select group, or if you're here for the first time today, a big welcome to you. I'm John, and I focus on reading, collecting and chatting about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Book Dork, who happily set me straight on some UK book publishing details, specifically why J.G. Ballard's UK editions went from Paladin to Flamingo. And as I said in my reply, every day is a school day, and I was happy to absorb this little factoid. Thank you to Book Dork, and thanks to all of you that take the time to leave a comment on my videos. Very much appreciated. Let's take a look at what was on the channel this week. On Sunday, there was another episode of Bookshelf Audit, my ongoing mission, my quest to winnow out books that aren't earning their place in my collection. It's really, honestly, it's really just me staring at my shelves, dithering painfully over which books should stay and which should go. And I don't know really if it makes very good television, to be honest, but I think at least some of you like a good nose at other people's shelves and can empathise at least with the pain of making room. And it's a good thing too, because there's another 3 episodes to come. On Tuesday, I wrapped up April's reading, tier ranking the 9 books that I read, declaring a book of the month. And if you haven't already watched that, it's exciting stuff. There's a dead heat. Yesterday, there was the latest instalment in my occasional series on space opera, a favourite subgenre of mine. This time focused on non-series, standalone, singleton or solo space opera novels. There's quite a range, some newer, some older, a few I've read and several I haven't but now want to. You should check it out. I watched a few things during the week too. I finally picked up the 3-Body Problem adaptation again, finishing episode 3. I am finding in general that I'd rather be reading a book than watching a screen, but I'll continue to squeeze the occasional episode in when time and inclination allows. During the week on YouTube, I watched Book Report do a review of some of James White's Sector General books, a series that's been recommended to me in the past. I like the sound of it. I think I'm right in saying that James White was a pacifist, so all of the drama in his books comes from the medical emergencies and the alien biologies that the doctors of the tale have to deal with. I also watched Ira over at SF Words of Wonder do a fun review of The High Crusade by Paul Anderson, which seems to combine 2 of my favourite genres, historical fiction and, of course, science fiction. Someone else recommended the same book to me in the past, and it sounds like a quick and enjoyable read. I just need to find a copy now. I'll put the links to those videos in the description so that you can find them easily. On the book buying front, let's just say that May's book haul video is shaping up very nicely indeed. In the last few days, I've taken delivery of quite a few books. There's a nice history of science fiction, which apparently is a good companion to Brian Aldiss' Trillion Year Spree. And there's an anthology of classic science fiction short stories and a very nice short story collection signed by the author, along with some other hardbacks that arrived today. Having sold some books recently, I have also put in a couple of new orders during the week. Later this month, I should receive a special edition short story collection signed by all the contributing authors. I should get a couple of nice first editions and another signed book. It's exciting stuff. There are already 22 books on my to be hauled pile, and we're only a third of the way through the month. What other delights await? Looking ahead to the coming week on the channel, on Sunday there should be a look at Scottish science fiction authors. Scotland seems to punch above its weight. There are some great authors to choose from, both native and adopted Scots. And at some point during the week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, there'll be a closer look at a strong contender for my book of the month, Lord Valentine's Castle. I don't often do separate reviews these days, but I feel inspired to do so in this case. If there's time, I might be able to squeeze in another video, perhaps on Thursday. I'm minded to do another series overview. I have a specific series in mind. I recently completed the set, so it'll be a chance for me to show off those books as a set and to wax lyrical about the story. If I don't have time for that, it'll appear at some point in the following week. For my reading this week, I've made a start on Newton's Wake. I'm about 50 pages in. I'd hoped to read that this week, but the pesky dragons and their apostrophic riders held me back. I will make some more progress through Century Reign on audiobook. I doubt that I'll finish it, although I will bash through a good 6 hours of it tomorrow whilst I'm out for a long run. And if I finish Newton's Wake, I'll dip into the space opera renaissance as well. I won't read all of it. Certainly I'll read the introduction and perhaps a short story or two as well. As always, thank you for watching. Have a super weekend, and until next time, goodbye for now.